shooting a little bit of an introductory here, which I normally don't do this way, but um, for our video for the Bradbury birthday, we read The Lost City of Mars together, me and Emily, and we shot the video yesterday. And after she was gone and I pulled the footage into my computer, um, it was just trash. And there's no time for Emily to get back over here for us to reshoot it, and the audio was really good, and we had a really great conversation, I think, about the story, one of our best. So I did what I could to salvage this and get it up on time for Ray Bradbury's birthday, which is Tuesday, August 22nd. So the only way I could really salvage this is, well, have you ever seen the movie La Jetée? I think that's how you pronounce it. French science fiction film from the 60s. It was shot with all still photos. It's a cool movie, but kind of experimental and kind of weird. And that's the only way I could save this. I was able to take still shots from the second book we talked about yesterday, where the footage turned out perfect, but that was for A Princess of Mars, so I had to just use stills that just show us talking, and make that the entire video along with still shots of like books and stuff. So that's what you'll see in this video, and I apologize for it. It's not something I would have done if I had any other choice. I'm not just doing this to be artsy, which I don't mind doing once in a while, but I'm not doing this just to be artsy. I'm doing this because it's the only way to get this done for Ray Bradbury's birthday, and that's Samantha blowing up my iPad right now. So I hope you'll enjoy this video and forgive the problems that I ran into. Now, the problems are not something that's going to go away. My camera is giving me all kinds of weird problems. I mean, with this video, I had it focused, but then when I brought the footage in, it was all completely out of focus. And then the camera just shut off. And because of another problem, I couldn't see that the camera had shut off, and we kept talking. So we recorded the audio and didn't have any video for like 11 minutes. So I'm looking for a new camera, and it comes at a really bad time because all my money is going into my house right now. I don't have the money to buy a new camera. You can help us out by either subscribing to our Patreon and helping us out that way, giving us a little extra money, or buying books off of our Etsy store, where you can get a nice used book, and we got some really nice titles up there, reasonable prices, and whatever profit we make off of that sale goes into our bank account to help us out. Now, the bank account is meant to go towards publishing our first book, but in this case, I think we need the camera first. And we do not monetize our YouTube videos. We're making absolutely nothing off of doing these videos for you. And it does take a lot of time, and as you can see here, you have to have dependable, somewhat expensive equipment to keep doing this. Now, I have some options for the meantime till I can get a new camera, and I'll exercise those. But please understand our situation with this video, and future videos will be better. I promise that, no matter what I have to do. I hope you'll enjoy the video.
Hey guys, welcome back to Telltale. I'm Emily.
I'm Greg.
And we are going to be discussing a Ray Bradbury short story today.
Because we're putting this on YouTube on Ray Bradbury's birthday.
Yes.
Which, it's coming up this week. Next week? I forget the exact date, but it's coming.
If you're seeing this, it's Ray Bradbury's birthday.
Well, on the day we put it up on YouTube. If you're watching it a week later, it's a week after Ray Bradbury's. If you're watching it 2 years later,
date of posting is the Bradbury birthday.
Yeah.
So this one, Greg let me pick a Bradbury story for his birthday, and we had kind of a unexpected theme going on because we were also reading A Princess of Mars, but that'll be another video. So this one is The Lost City of Mars.
Yep.
By Ray Bradbury. And yeah, go ahead and give us details when
I'm
you got
desperately trying to find my notes.
it. He's consulting the scrolls.
And the scrolls, it's scrolling way, way down. There it is. Lost City of Mars was published in January of 1967. And it's a Martian story, but it's, of course, Martian Chronicles was published in, I believe, 1952.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not part of the Martian Chronicles, but it is a Ray Bradbury Martian story. So more recent collections of Bradbury's Martian stories will include this one.
As seen here.
Yes, that is from the Library of America. That's currently available as a brand new book. So
It's
you can
beautiful.
go on their website and buy it. Their books are cheaper from their website than if you buy from bookstores. Just so you know.
Just buying direct.
So that's a really good source for the story right now.
Yes.
An interesting fact about this story is that it was not published in any science fiction magazines.
Oh, interesting.
It was published in Playboy magazine.
Ah, Playboy.
And the thing to note about Playboy is that, yes, from the very start of their history, they published a lot of fiction. You know, so the old joke is, I only read Playboy for the articles. Well, you really could read Playboy for the articles because they had a lot of brilliant interviews over their history and a lot of great fiction. They published most of the James Bond stories before they appeared in book
Dr.
form.
Seuss started his career as a illustrator of political cartoons for them.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, like, a lot of people got their start because Playboy gave them a shot.
Yeah.
And they were talented and good.
You know, and a lot of really top authors have published in Playboy, like Norman Mailer and Isaac Bashevis Singer, and of course Ray Bradbury. And that's something in the late 50s, a lot of magazines started coming up that because of the space program and because of the interest in UFOs and stuff like that and all the Hollywood space monster movies, the what they called the slick magazines as opposed to the cheap pulp genre magazines. The slick magazines being like Saturday Evening Post or Collier's.
Yeah.
They started buying science fiction.
Nice.
And started publishing Bradbury, Heinlein, Clark, a lot of people like that. So when Playboy started, you know, aside from their centerfold, they filled the rest of the magazine with content that was very much like the rest of the slick magazines. Top interviews, top fiction, a lot of really good opinion articles, other stuff like that. So there was a lot of great content in Playboy that had absolutely nothing to do with what they're famous for. And in the early days, even the pinups, they didn't really show. I mean,
yeah, they were pretty tame.
You could tell the models were nude, but you couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
So
it was very tastefully done.
yeah, and some of them were even downright artistic. So
Vogue level porn.
Yeah. Well, Vogue publishes more shows more
honestly,
than
they do.
Playboy did back then. But they published a lot of great science fiction. A Meeting with Medusa, which is a Hugo Award-winning story by Arthur C. Clarke, was published in Playboy.
I think The Fly was too.
Yes, it was. And that's one confusing because there's two of the Flies. One was written by Arthur Porges and published in the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction way back in 51 or 52. But that's not the one that was made into the movie.
Yep.
I'm forgetting the author of the one that was made into the movie, but that was published in Playboy, I believe, in 1957. So they have this long history from the very beginning of the magazine of publishing a lot of top science fiction, fantasy, horror stories by top authors.
And we really should do an entire video just on the historical significance of Playboy for the literary genres.
Okay. And of course, Playboy being what they called a slick magazine had, oh no, I gotta find it because the bookmark's in the wrong place.
No.
They had far better artwork than what the standard science fiction magazines had. And I'm not showing you the front because it's a little risque, but on this particular issue, but trying to open. I have the actual issue. I bought it just for this occasion because
Which is cool.
if I can ever find it in here, the illustration is super cool, and there's more than one illustration with the story too. So maybe I consult the table of contents.
Yeah, to the table of contents.
I'm a guy. Directions? I don't use directions. Who needs directions when you can just spend an hour trying to find it?
Just flip through the
86.
pages.
Here it is. The Lost City of Mars.
Oh, that's cool.
Very cool illustration. I'll let the audience see it.
That is
very
really
cool
neat. A lot of
illustrations.
texture. That's very cool.
Yeah. You know, not the sort of thing you find on the science fiction magazines, but totally fitting to the story.
Yeah, it is. It's very fitting. I like that a lot. Very cool. And I like the typography. Ooh, the collage.
There are some other illustrations in here for the story. So
I like that.
you know, they spent some money where the science
They
fiction
took time.
magazines didn't do that,
Yeah, they took
like
some
this.
time.
and that's all for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, say what you want about Playboy, whatever you want, whatever you don't like about it, but they did do some good things in publishing. They did publish a lot of really excellent science fiction over the years, and other fiction as well.
Yeah.
So, that said, we can get on to the review.
Bradbury! Okay, first of all, let me just say, I feel like every time I read a Bradbury story, my soul learns something. I don't know what it is. Anyway, so the synopsis of this story is a bunch of Martians living on Mars, mostly people who have migrated from or immigrated from Earth. So it starts off the story with this gentleman whose job is to find the next habitable planet. And he's just kind of feeling very disillusioned about his job. There's so much pressure. There's so many what ifs. There's not a lot of tangible definition of what could or couldn't necessarily sustain life. And so he's feeling really about his job. But he gets a message from a gentleman who says, hey, wine, beer on my yacht. We're going to go find the lost city of Mars. Really casual like that. And so the guy's like, I don't know why, but I'm saying yes. Like, just for something different to do. And so what they're doing is the Martian canals are being refilled with liquid. I'm not sure if it's water or what. But they haven't really explored Mars through the waterways. They've only done it by air and by land.
Mm-hmm.
And so they decide we probably will find something if we actually explore these canals and see what habitations from previous, ancient culture Martians had.
Mm-hmm.
And so they do so. But it's a ragtag team of like a poet, an engineer, a washed up actress, an actor, and so it's like this ragtag kind of motley crew of people who all have kind of been disillusioned with their lives right now and their positions and their relationships. And so this guy who owns the yacht just invites them all, and they all show up and they start sailing. And as they sail, they do actually find the lost city on Mars. And what it is an entirely automated city.
Yep.
And I kind of don't want to go on from there because it's kind of interesting how each character has their own story that plays out in this city, for good or bad.
I think we need to spoil it just a little bit.
Okay.
Because the whole point of the story, you got to understand, Bradbury wasn't, and even with his early Martian stories and the Martian Chronicles, he wasn't trying to write realistic stories about what it would be like to actually go to Mars. And he wasn't writing Burroughs-type adventure stories that were basically just fantasy stories set on another planet.
Yeah, he's very character-oriented.
Well, he used Mars as a vehicle to illuminate the people that were going there
and their experiences
and reflect their inner selves, and make these people look into a mirror.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what they do here. Is that the city somehow has technology which pulls them into their vision of themselves.
Yes.
And their fantasies, and makes them real.
Yes. So, okay, I guess I could kind of go into some of the storylines. Like, the first one is the actor. He finds a completely automated theater where he is the main attraction, and he just gets, like, drunk with the pleasure of actually being an actor, even though he's really not that good.
Yeah.
But he's drunk on the applause and gets high off of it, and it kind of just leaves you with that, where he just kind of is trapped in his own vanity and ends up, feels like he's forever stuck in this theater because it's the only way he gets the attention he wants. And then another one is like
the city latched onto his ego and magnified it and
real. Basically trapped him there.
Yeah.
And he was aware of it, but also like he was okay with it, like he didn't want to leave. The next one is the washed up actress was realizing that the reason she had decided to leave Earth was because she realized in her own vanity that she was getting older, and someone had mentioned something to her, and then she was like, oh shit. And so she decided to leave Earth and go to Mars and kind of start over. But when she enters the city, she enters this like cathedral basically of mirrors that as she walked through it, it would take like 10 years off of her every few yards, every like few years, until she got to like the height of her career when she was the most beautiful, and she kind of had this narcissus,
narcissistic.
Yeah. Like this, it was very Greek mythology, Roman. I can't remember which it is, but very like, yeah, it was that story where she just like got lost and sat in the mirror, and her maid was outside, and after an hour her maid's like, well, I'm gonna go walk around now, I don't think she's coming out for a while. The other one is the poet and his wife. Or no, the one before that was the engineer. He walks into a garage of all these machines, just calling for him to fix them.
Yes. Cool machines.
Very cool machines.
Like cool cars and stuff.
Yeah, like revolutionary stuff that he'd never seen before, and he was so like enchanted by the idea of fixing and bringing them back to life, and so he did. You know, like he just started working on things until the engines worked. And so that's how he kind of got trapped in the city, so to speak. But then another one was the poet and his wife, who are a terribly bickering couple. She doesn't appreciate his prose. He has a lot of Christian themes, and he speaks in his own prose a lot. And so he's dealing with a lot of religious guilt, and his wife is nitpicky and all this stuff. And he runs into a building with this weird machine, and as he kind of like sits on it and presses buttons, it kills you, but you don't die. So he keeps dying like over and over in all these really tragic accidents, and keeps coming back, and he's like, basically he feels like he has punished himself for all of his sins and everything, where he's like, okay, I feel like I can start over now. And he just leaves his wife. Like he just walks out of the building and says, I don't need you anymore, honey. Because he realizes he was using his wife as a means of punishing himself for all the religious guilt he had.
Yeah.
And so he leaves free. Because he's like, now I've died and punished myself, hundreds of times through these awful ways that I feel like I deserved to die, and now I feel like I'm complete. And I've paid my penitence, and now I can move on with life. So he doesn't get trapped by the city. He ends up like just figuring out himself.
Yeah.
And then like, of course, our protagonist, who is this rocket scientist or whatever, the rocket engineer, is kind of realizing as he's listening to the hum of this city and all this technology around him, and he's just like, this place is trying to trap us. Like he just knows from the get-go, this place is trying to trap us here. And I think he, the poet, and one other guy, the main yacht captain, are like the only three who make it out.
Yeah.
Oh, and the maid. The maid ends up getting out of there too.
Okay.
But everybody else gets trapped by the city, and then the city just closes in on itself and like traps them in the capsule. And there's some other very violent, like the hunter has a very violent end as well, where he's exploring he's just finding that basically the city eats people,
Mm-hmm.
essentially, to run. Kind of like that story we had with the computer, the Great Sea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it was a very interesting story, but it's borderline a morality story.
Well, exactly, and that's more the sort of thing Bradbury was about. He didn't write hard science fiction like Asimov and Heinemann were writing, where their story is based on some mathematics of rocket science.
Yes.
He wrote metaphors that
He does.
illuminated the human condition.
Yes. And that's
Which-
why I feel like every time I read a Bradbury story, my soul has learned something.
Exactly.
Even if it's not super tangible, it starts playing with an idea.
And even his slightest stories,
Mhm.
his writing style was almost poetry.
It was. Nobody writes
So-
like Bradbury. So, like, even the synopsis might give away stuff, but you have to read it from his lens.
Yeah,
It's
because the
so
way
beautifully
he
done.
writes is, even if it didn't have a plot, it would
Yeah.
still be wonderful to read because of how it, and read aloud because of how it sounds, because of how he puts the
Yes.
words together.
A purple
You know, it's
prose.
something we've talked about before, that this kind of writing goes above and beyond just sitting down and having characters interact.
And
It's
so,
crafting the words
and it's so
for
deeply
their sound
emotional.
and their meaning, and putting layers of meaning into, and doing that with every paragraph throughout the entire story.
Everything is crafted.
So that-
This is artistry.
Yeah.
This is not just writing.
Right.
And it's beautifully done. So there's just
And-
no.
That's, that's, I guess you could say, high writing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of authors like Brandon Sanderson, Sarah J. Maas, they just write,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not smithing their words to reach the kind of level of artistry that someone like Bradbury does,
Mm-hmm.
or Lovecraft, or Poe.
Yeah.
They're not going to that level, and the best writers are the ones that take it to that level.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that complain, well, I don't like reading that, it's too flowery, or it sounds too old. Sorry,
Shut up.
but this
You're
is
stupid. No, you're not.
okay.
No.
Say it. I
This
mean-
is really great literature. Like
Yeah, it's like the difference.
it is
between,
meant for the intellectual.
It's the
It
difference
is.
between a garage sale fake painting and Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah. It really is. And Bradbury he's such an emotional writer too. You feel stuff
Mhm.
when you read his work. Even if you don't it may seem like an insignificant thing, like the movement of a grasshopper on a blade of grass. But it's so profoundly described in such a way that you can't help but appreciate the existence of that grasshopper, to the grass, to all of creation surrounding it, and the tree in the hole in the ground, and the green grass grew all around.
Mhm.
Like, it's just that kind of thing where you just become so aware not just of the object he's describing, but the atmosphere surrounding it and the state of mind of the person narrating for themselves. He just does such a great job of capturing those characters.
Yeah.
And still making them feel individual and not necessarily as if they are himself speaking,
Mhm.
but still in his own crafted, beautiful way.
Right.
And it's just, it's spellbinding. It's
Yeah.
spellbinding literature.
Mhm.
And that's why Greg bought me these books for my birthday or Christmas, one or the other. You got them for a
That was
gift.
Christmas. That was
Christmas, yeah. Christmas, because my birthday and Christmas are so close together.
I was kind of weighing it.
Yeah.
There was Ursula Le Guin or Ray Bradbury. You had been saying that you wanted to read Bradbury, and I had already
do.
bought you the poems of Le Guin, so I thought I'll go with the Bradbury.
Yes, yes, and this is,
Maybe Le Guin will be this year.
and it's because I'm only just now starting to be exposed to his work. But every
Mhm.
time I open a page, come to a page of a Bradbury story, one, you know it's a Bradbury without even seeing the author's name. You
Mhm.
could just tell.
Mhm.
Also, every single time, I am so touched by the stories he tells, even if they're intense like this one.
Yeah.
There's so much to take away from this story,
Mhm.
and so much to learn about humanity and being human, and the things that we allow to trap us
Mhm.
in ourselves.
Mhm.
And that's really what the story is about, is the things that trap us in ourselves, but literally they get trapped by something else because of these vices in their life, their vanity, their
Yeah.
obsessions, their
It gives
adrenaline
you more,
junkie.
It gives you more than just a Martian adventure story.
Yes.
You know, goes so much deeper,
Mm-hmm.
and there's so much more to discover, even in just a short story like
Yes,
this.
and it shows you the things that can make and break humanity,
Mm-hmm.
and makes it just so beautiful and broken.
I think this story is all how many of us are caught up in
Yes.
our own selves, our own self-interests,
Mm-hmm.
and we kind of get lost in them
Yes.
and don't see the rest of what's going on around us and don't ever escape from that.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, like, especially in the case of, I mean, every backstory was very interesting in how he did it, but for like the actress, I really resonated with the actress in a lot of respects.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is so much pressure from society that if you are a female in a public space, your looks are everything.
Yeah.
They're everything. We have a fat phobic society because they don't care about healthy. They want you to look thin and follow the beauty standards of what society thinks. And especially actresses. Like, you hear so much trauma from interviews with these women who are in modeling or acting and all the things that they had to endure just to be in the industry and to be considered valuable in their craft, even though they're a freaking actress for a reason.
Yeah.
It's because they can embody a whole other person, but you have to be skinny well and beautiful while doing it.
Well, it's kind of a two-edged sword there, because I mean, if you go against that that general societal "you must be beautiful" thing, and you just don't take care of yourself, you do run into a lot of bad health problems.
You do.
And you're going to cut your life short.
Yeah.
And it's going to cost you a lot of money at the hospital.
Yeah.
So you need to take care of yourself to a certain level.
Mm-hmm.
But then we do tend to push it beyond a certain point.
It goes beyond health.
There are certain people that just aren't, they're born in a way that there's just no way they can ever be that beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not fair to them.
Yes.
I mean, not that beautiful according to that standard.
Exactly.
I should qualify that.
Yes.
That there's just no way they could do it.
Yeah.
All the plastic
A person can be beautiful, but just not fit that standard.
Make them fit,
exactly.
that magazine cover standard, because they just weren't born with the right bones.
Yes, and in order to, and that's one of the things I think that was interesting too about the actors, is in order to feel protected enough and safe enough, she had to be beautiful for everyone to be a yes man around her, and society built her problem and reinforced her ideas.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting how that one is specifically like an outside influence causing an issue. The same with the actor. Like, just wanting to be appreciated for whatever reason as an actor caused him to be trapped forever in this, because he just wanted to be good enough. Yeah. Or like, I even liked the poet, because like, his wife was very much, shut up, you're stupid, everything you write is crap. Like, why are you like that self-punishing issue that he had. Who of us doesn't have that? Where we feel like we owe karma something, or penitence to a divine being, or like we just want to be a good person, and feel like for all the times we're a bad person, we beat ourselves up for it. Like, it's so human, and it speaks volumes in so many different ways in this story. You just, it's unlike anything. It's unlike anything I've ever read.
Right.
It's really great.
And the last word on this is, when you're out of Schlitz, you're out of beer.
Yes! Exactly. But yeah, for me, this was a top tail.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've already got it on our website with the top
Perfect.
tail.
Perfect. I don't know that any Bradbury I read won't be a top tail, because he's just such an interesting writer. We'll see.
I don't know.
We got plenty ahead of us.
Yeah, so far, all of them that I've read or reread for Telltale have measured up to it. But he's got to have written something that he just kind of dashed off.
Oh yeah, something he just kind of was like, I just need to pay a bill real quick.
Yeah. every writer, and everybody has those days when they're just not up to their best.
Yeah.
Every writer goes through that.
Filler stories. So we'll see. We'll see if Bradbury has some, but honestly, that is all I had to say about this. Please read it.
It's a great story.
Oh my gosh, it was fantastic. So good. But yeah.
So like us and subscribe to us. Leave comments. Have you read The Lost City of Mars by Ray Bradbury? Or if you want to say anything else about Bradbury or anything
Let
else.
me know how Dandelion Wine is. That's been recommended to me so many times too. If you've read Bradbury.
That one either,
yeah. Let us know if you like that one, because we might have to do that for a Telltale read. But yes.
And you've got most of his.
Yeah, I have most, if not all of it now.
It's
Thank you, Greg.
Two or three volumes?
It was 2 volumes.
2 volumes.
2 very large volumes.
Yeah, so she just brought the one that has that story.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Again in the next video.
Yep.